briefly for a while.
Oh, exciting. You're on call, sort of.
I'm on call, I love it.
They're using me, is all I can say.
You got it? Okay.
I hated being on call.
Yeah, this is pretty lovely.
That's all right. Driving. That's true.
You want this to happen, you need your rest.
Right.
Yeah.
What about you?
I am.
Birthdays are a bigger deal than when I was little. Now it's like the party around.
All right, welcome back. Yes, Neil.
Just wondering how I can start to look at my own perceiver.
So I'm going to repeat the question for the streaming. And the question was, how can I start looking at my own perceiver? Have you already tried to do that, Emil?
Once,
What?
just this session.
Oh. Then it's timely. Would it be okay if I asked what that experience was like?
Didn't really know where to look.
Didn't know where to look. Did you try looking in some different places?
Not really.
I think that's say, looking into the nature of that which perceives, to me falls into insight or latang or vipassana practice. And in shamatha or calm abiding practice, we're essentially cultivating our ability to hold our own experience within our attention, within our awareness. And we develop the capacity both to more habitually hold our experience within our awareness, and we also develop our capacity to hold increasingly challenging experiences within our experience. In latang practice, insight practice, what we're doing is we are looking into the nature of our own mind. And one of the very first things we're encouraged to do is to find ourselves. And the question is, what is this self? And I don't know what you guys experience when you look inward into that question, but my own experience is, yeah, of course there's a self. Of course I'm there. But then the experience of actually trying to pin down, okay, and what does that mean? Where is that? Is not, well, it's a bit harder. I think a place to start is, well, you can start right where you, with the exact question that you asked. And you can ask it to yourself internally, where is this part of me that perceives? And then look. And it's not exactly like like you're looking for your keys. It might be closer to listening, actually. But it would probably be acceptable to do an investigation. You probably need to settle that for yourself. You could look for it like you look for your keys. You know, you can look inside your head, you can look through your body, you can look around the room. Eventually you come to the question of if I can hold something in my awareness, then presumably there must be something else to hold that something in awareness. And what is that? Can you get a look at it? I think the practice is the other way that this practice is different is that, well, I should only speak for myself. I haven't found that this practice ends in an answer and then you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Right. That what you're looking for, rather than an answer, is you're cultivating your attention in such a way as that the answer is can be seen. I think rather than saying anything more, check in with my fellow teachers and see if they want to say anything about that.
It's a great question. Thank you. And I think I'm learning a few things about it. First, how important Shine is as the foundation, the calm abiding, the ability to place the mind and not have it, or as it goes everywhere, replace the mind, and that calm that eventually comes from that. Some days it can take a long time. Some days it can be quicker, depending on what we've been doing. If we're doing a lot of really busy, wild things that excite us or things that depress us, we're going to take that onto the cushion. So the importance of developing Shine as the foundation for that Latan, so that as soon as, at least for me, my experience is, and the teachings say this, when you launch a question like that, who's the perceiver, where's the perceiver, the mind, which maybe was calm, is immediately excited. Then you've lost your calm. So it's helpful, I think, to get the calm as good as you can, then launch a question. As soon as you go conceptual, which you'll be immediately, go back to Shine. Go back to the calm abiding, reestablish the calm, launch the question. Because what we're really trying, what we're really not trying for, but is what Eric touched on, is the experience of it, not the thinking about it. And our minds go so fast to thinking, so fast. I don't know if mine's ever off thinking. So that's why to the shine, to try and get an experience of not so many thoughts, and then try the insight question. And sometimes there can be an experience of something different, is what I would say, than what my mind's always doing. But as soon as I ask the question, who's the perceiver, where's this experience happening, all these kind of questions can be useful. But my mind wants to jump on the now I'm back into my usual thinking. So back to shine, back to the calm. That makes sense. So that's how I was instructed with it, and I've tried to do it, and it seems to be beneficial. It's just practice over and over.
One way to keep it simple is just to ask the question, what is the experience of having a perceiver? So you can just place your attention on the experience. And the thing in all these we have to get used to is, whatever the method is in this realm, we have to get used to the idea that there isn't like something in particular that is going to happen, or an idea or a conclusion or anything like that. So that's in itself, it requires a kind of relaxation. The anti-relaxation is the glomming onto, well, I've got to have an answer, or I can say, I've got to have something, I got to get something out of this. But just being able to ask the question and relax in it, so that the experience we just become clearer about what our experience is, sort of gradually. And since we're so used to having something to hang on to, that's one of the reasons that we do calm abiding with an object to start out with quite a bit, just to get used to sort of at least relaxing with one little thing to do. So we relax with that, then we can kind of get an idea of what is relaxing without just kind of putting off. Then we can just be present and relax, and that's actually the foundation, or an important foundation for being able to do insight practice, where it actually sort of starts to unfold. But along the way, if we can just sort of do something, look and sort of feel the experience, and just let go of it, basically dedicate. Good enough. I don't have whatever it is that's coming up. I don't need to prolong it. I don't need to make something out of it. Just give it up, and then go back to calm abiding. So to take the burden off of it. That's relax with it.
The thing I was gonna say contradicts what you said. Debating whether to say it or not. The little point I was gonna add was when you look, or you've asked the question and you're probing, listening or looking, or I would say it's what I sometimes forget is to allow, if possible, allow a resting in that, what happens when you do that, rather than quickly going back to the question,
Oh, yeah.
have a just be with either the finding something, the having an experience, or the not finding, just a bit of resting in that, so that you're not just constantly pumping in, like the question is, don't forget that part of spending time in there. So, and then, but if you're then starting to go off of that, then back to Shine or to dedication,
It's the same thing.
okay.
Relax, rest.
Yeah, the relax or the restiness.
Relax.
Just three short things. One is that the clearest exposition that I've found of shamatha latang is in Trungpa Rinpoche's book, Crystal Clear. And so highly recommend that as a set of instructions. And the second point is, when Lama Michael teaches this in the context of the Mahamudra program, he teaches it as something that you do, you start actually by doing a devotional practice, a guru yoga practice. And I think that highlights that this is not something that you do. It's sort of a blessing. And then it's always interesting to hear people who've actually accomplished the practice describe it. So going forward to next week in the aspiration for Mahamudra prayer has a succinct little description from Rangjung Dorje, the third Karmapa, and he says, we'll start with shamatha. He says, the waves of subtle and coarse thoughts calm down in their own ground. Motionless, the river of mind abides naturally. Free from the contaminations of dullness and torpor, may I establish the still ocean of shamatha. And then latang is, when one looks again and again at the mind which cannot be looked at, and sees vividly for what it is, the meaning of not seeing, doubts about the meaning of is and is not are resolved. Without confusion, may my own face know itself. He continues, looking at objects, there is no object. One sees mind. Looking at mind, there is no mind. It is empty of nature. Looking at both of these, dualistic clinging subsides on its own. May I realize sheer clarity, the way mind is.
I don't know if this has to do with that, or even if it's a question, honestly. So I don't really know, like I haven't studied Buddhism much, and but I do massage, and so sometimes when I'm working, but also other times, but when I work, a lot, so mostly it's when I'm working, there's this lovely thing where it feels like know, it's hard to describe. I was trying to think about it and figure out how I could put it to words the other day because I wanted to ask about it. So I think these are some words that might work for it, but it's kind of like I'm not, like, there's the distinctions between me and the person I'm working on are so flimsy, really, when you get down to it, you know, like, both physically, like, when I touch you, right, my cells are, like, right next to your cells, just the way that they're right next to my cells in my hand, but then also, it just feels flimsy when you have somebody who's laying there and you're kind of like, you know, and it's a lovely feeling, that feeling. And it doesn't happen all the time, but when it happens, it's just so pleasant because it's non-verbal. It's not a thing that has definition or even really a thing. I can sort of do it on purpose, but it's not even really a thing I'm doing on purpose. And I think it's not just me. I mean, I know it's not just me. Like, the other day I was working with someone and having the feeling, and then I was like, oh, this is the feeling. Like, how will is there a way I could talk about this? And I tried to think of words, and then afterwards and this is just a biker guy. Like, he was just a guy, you know, he's not like a Buddhist, you know. And he came out afterwards and says, oh, that was lovely. He's like, I just feel great. I almost feel euphoric. And I was like, yeah, right? Like that, I know, right? It's like that, it's just so lovely. And I feel like I have it also, like when my aunt was dying, I felt like, and I was with her and touching her, it kind of helps to be touching the person. Or like sometimes with this horse I know, or other times also, like my cousins, their son died, and when I went and was with them. And that is a great thing. And I feel like I'm not like that whole perceiver perceived. It's useful because I don't have so much of that. So my question is, one, is that a thing? Is that a Buddhist thing? Like, what are Buddhist words for that? Two, this thing, like the seated meditation thing, feels real different. Like this thing feels like this really solid, encapsulated thing. Do you think eventually this unravels into that, or do you think that how is that? I mean, and I think this thing is useful. I mean, I've only been trying this for not that long, but I think this is useful because it's so intentional. It's so like, I'm doing it so on purpose, which maybe I think is going to make it easier to apply using my will in the world, maybe? I don't know. So I don't know what my question is. Is that a thing? Does this thing relate to that thing? Is that thing related to that thing? How do the things all go together?
That's a great question. I'm so glad I'm not the
Well, I didn't have to ask a question.
I'm just appreciating the loveliness of that question and description. And isn't it funny, you know, we have experiences like this and we immediately want to put words to them. And I can think of a lot of words to put to your experience. Buddhist words, non-Buddhist words. I'm feeling some resistance to doing that. Because I think the heart of any spiritual practice is to bring us closer to mystery, not to solve mystery. And what you're describing is really a beautiful experience that I don't think it's a coincidence that you were getting there through touch. There are no words that facilitate you having that experience. I think how sitting practice relates to that experience. Is that what we're learning in shamatha practice is how to open to all experiences. Because not all experiences are like the one that you described, right? Or it's like my patient who is feeling, sometimes she's feeling quite blissful and quite connected to her understanding of the divine, and then she gets into an argument with her roommate over, like, who paid what for groceries. And I think both in shamatha you learn to open to both types of experience, and you learn to kind of let them be, as opposed to, of course, if you really devote your life to pursuing those kinds of experiences, it can be hard to replicate them, if that's even possible. I so want to start quoting chapter and verse on this. I know so many things that apply to this particular circumstance, and I just there's a part of me that knows better, and I'm I'm not quite sure what to do with it. But that's the advantage of being one of 4 teachers.
I'll take a risk. It is interesting sitting here, always trying to figure out, well, not figure out, but experience the I that's being a teacher, and then the I that's a practitioner, and blah, blah, all that blah, blah. Anyway, what I have found helpful is to sit with the question. And you've brought this wonderful question, which seems to be something like you have your experience at work of very interconnected and joyful. It looks joyful, yeah. And then you get on the cushion and your experience seems quite different, yeah. I would say just keep getting on the cushion and noticing, because your question also had this piece of, well, sometime will this sort of come together like something, who knows? You will know. But if I just sit with the question, how do I want to say this? I sit with the question within a Buddhist worldview, which is there isn't anything that's Buddhist and not Buddhist. The Buddhist worldview, there's nothing that's Buddhist and not Buddhist. That's not a Buddhist worldview. So, so then sitting within that worldview with questions, and then just see what you experience. I don't know if it's making any sense, but that's what I do that seems to help with the kind of situation what I'm getting about what your description is. So it is important to know what the Buddhist worldview is, and that can take some part of the 3 wisdoms, like learning what it is. That's through reading, listening, and then contemplating it, like, does this fit my experience? Because the Buddha said if it doesn't, throw it out, or put it on the back shelf. And then meditate, get that calm abiding going, which causes clarity. So then we see reality as it is, which is the Buddhist worldview. Experience reality as it is. We mostly don't do that. We experience it through all of our filters, all the 5 senses and the mental, So, that's enough words.
I think it's helpful just to have this little pith of Buddhist teaching that is that self and other, that way of perceiving the world is the way we perceive pretty much everything. Me here, doorway there, me here, you there. That's a habit and it's an error. Now, the meaning of how that's an error and how we get out of it and what it means to be out of that, that's the whole path, and it's a lot, and it's very complex. But if you just hold the sense, from the Buddhist point of view, that separation is mistaken. My habitual way of viewing that is a mistake. Then perhaps we could be more open to experiencing what actually is. Trying to escape a little bit of that very, 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 very strong habit. So when we sit, if we, instead of reinforcing that, I'm so separate here, sitting, everyone else is in their separate little bodies, and so if you reinforce that, you won't be, that wouldn't be so helpful, I'd say. So I think it's helpful just and not even contemplate, but just have that as a background for when you're sitting, and be open to that this is a mystery of how we are, how we're interconnected, and this, who's teaching us everything's interconnected. How and, mechanisms and whatever, that's very mysterious, but being open to experiencing that. I personally have, I think, also experiences maybe like you described, when can be also in a conversation sometimes. And I can also sometimes see myself reasserting sort of, or denying that, this sort of shared experience, sort of recreating the separation between me and who I'm talking with. I mean, I can sort of see my role in that. I think we have a role of kind of keeping that separation going, and somehow sometimes being open to there not being such a separation. So I think it's wonderful for you to have the experiences you're having in your work, and so I just encourage you to be open on the cushion.
Do you want more?
Well, maybe I have a follow-up question, which is, so, I mean, I think I understand Buddhism like the way everyone understands Buddhism, not everyone, but the way our popular culture understands Buddhism, like the sort of, kind of broad brushstrokes of it. And I have books now, because I've borrowed books. And I don't know, what do you, like, so, but I find that when I'm reading the books, how do you think what is the best way to understand it all? Because it seems like when I read the books, there's an awful lot of terms, aren't there? There's a lot of words, and like, many of them, and a lot of them are Sanskrit, and so then you're like learning. I'm not sure, what do you think? Like, so what do you think? What's the best way to, it makes sense to me that a person would want to have an understanding of, you're like, okay, I'm gonna go to this thing, and the premise of the thing is we're all continuous, and, there's this kind of like, the premise of the thing is my belief of myself as a distinct separate entity is false, and that that is the thing we want to break down and let go of. But in order to learn this thing, I have to, like, there's so many distinct separate, do you know what I mean? Am I making any sense? Like, it feels like, it's like, okay, to get to this place where you are, where it's let go, I'm gonna hand you like a million things, and you need to like study each of them, and then put them on a shelf and know where they are, and then get another one and study that, and it has a name, and if you can, like, how are you gonna remember the name, because you're gonna have to tell someone about it later, and it's in Sanskrit, and that's a dead language, and like, how do you even pronounce it? No one's heard it articulated, like, or whatever. Maybe it's in Tibetan, I don't even know for sure, and so Tibetan would be easier, I guess, but so I don't know how to do it. I feel like I don't know how to do it.
I can tell there's some practical wisdom and experience coming from the corner, John.
Oh. Well, about a month ago, there was a great email that went around for what's the beginning book that really got you to understand what this was about. And if you look through that list and stay with that, don't go, you can get it really complicated. Right. But that list was very simple, easy books to understand, and once you grok it, then you can go deeper, and I thought that was a great list of books.
Okay. I think you and I are actually saying the same thing. Like, my reluctance to try to explain your experience to you is, I think, analogous to your wondering whether how important it is to learn all of this worldview. And so on the one hand, the traditional teaching about this is that there's the three disciplines. They're reading or studying or listening to the teachings so that one can learn. There's contemplation, where one looks to see, okay, how does that fit within my world? You try to apply them to your life. And then the third is practice. And in the practice, you're really looking to see, okay, this is what was taught, this is what my experience is, and then actually you look at your experience and you see. So that's the traditional teaching about that. I'll read the paragraph that, and this is from Ken MacLeod, and the title of the paragraph is How Explanations Function. He says, we seek explanations when we are confronted by a mystery. Why did that happen? Or why is this happening to me? He's blunt. The function of an explanation is to remove mystery. He gives the example, most of us at some point in our lives have looked up at a clear blue sky and asked, why is the sky blue? There it is, as blue as can be, and we feel the mystery and something stirs in us, a curiosity, an opening. The sky is blue because the chemical composition of the atmosphere is such that light of certain frequencies are absorbed and scattered, and the result is a blue sky. No mystery. But the explanation leaves us dead inside, and we realize we weren't really looking for an explanation at all. The mystery drew and held our attention. Explanations take the mystery out of life. They give the impression that everything makes sense to us. When things make sense, we stop looking. Explanation has, Ken says in his view, the opposite intention of spiritual practice. The former seeks to remove mystery, the latter to open to mystery and live in it. So then it's a paradox, right? We're sitting here doing question and answer. Like, what are we doing? My personal experience with the books and the studying is that I have to give my brain something to chew on so that it can be happy and I can practice and just do the practices and grow from them. It's sort of like, giving your kid your iPad, while you've got something to do. You have to sort of give it something to keep it busy and entertained so that the real stuff can happen. Yeah, go ahead, Marcy.
Oh, I just wanted to add to that question a little bit. My experience is that, for me, I think a guideline is if I am reading something and I'm feeling inspired to practice, that's probably a good sign that that book is appropriate at wherever I'm at. But when I start to feel overwhelmed, or I'm feeling kind of dead about it, or just generally confused, that may not be the right book that I want to be reading at that time. So, and I reread this? Like, so, I don't know, that's my experience with it, is I think it just, you can tell when it's the right book in a sense, in that, and plus it's good, I think, to take suggestions from people who have already, you know, like, I can trust that the books on the bookshelf in there are probably not going to be harmful to me in some way, but
I have brief advice, which is to go slowly and go with friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
by this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state.
Cleaning day.
Cleaning day. Everyone can help by just